Alright, so this is going to be a review of the Unique Melody 3DT Terminator. And the keyword of this IEM is big. And we'll get back to that in a second. So this is I got this used, so this is going to be like not the most best unboxing experience we can say. But it has everything that comes with the IEM. So we have the case, which is big. We have the tips, which are alright. They weren't the most comfortable tips in my opinion. And we have microfiber cloth and a little Unique Melody card. Now, let's get on to the IEMs. Now, opening the box of the little case, we have cable, and we have the IEMs themselves. The case has this little triangle pouch, which I'm pretty sure is so you can separate the IEMs from the cable, which is nice, especially for an IEM of this price, which is $400 US, MSRP at least. And so let's get started on the sound. Well, before we get onto the sound, let's talk about build quality and the cable. So the cable was kind of disappointing for me. I mean, it's not the worst in the world, but it's not the greatest. It's relatively straight, but it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, just kind of, look at that, the way it like knots up like that. And for $400, I just expect a little bit higher quality material as well. This feels kind of cheap. I do like how thin and light it is, but for example, if you look at the cable that comes with the cadenza, it's thin, light, and I find it to be higher quality, at least to me. I prefer the cadenza cable. And that cadenza is a $35 IEM, so I don't really think that the cable is really matching the quality and price of the IEMs themselves. But let's go up to the IEMs, and the build is gorgeous in my opinion. It has a nice mixture of resin and wood grain with a metal nozzle. I really like the look of these IEMs. But there are a lot of people I know who do not like how these look. So really it's a personal preference thing. I like how they look, but that's up to you. But let's talk about sound. These sound amazing. And again, these sound big. Really big. And these are 3DT IEM, and you can hear it. When you put this in your ear, it has a really headphone-like presentation. I don't know how to explain it. But when I'm listening to these, it sounds like I'm listening to a pair of over-ear headphones. And a quality pair of over-ear headphones, which is wonderful. The bass hits like an over-ear headphone almost. The mid-range is really smooth, really great sounding. It's forward, but not too forward. It's more of a neutral sound. I wouldn't call it warm, but I wouldn't call it bright. It's just kind of in the middle. The highs are kind of its weakest point, but they're also not bad. The highs just have a little bit of roughness to them, in my opinion. Not really, they kind of sound, I don't know how to explain it, like disorganized, or like a little bit grainy. That's the best word for this. It's a little bit grainy, but it's still really high quality. Has great detail, really good imaging, and really excellent soundstage. Like I said, it sounds like an over-ear headphone. Like it has that big sense wherever, like it's just, you hear the sound all around you, and it really sounds like out of your head, which is very difficult for an IEM to accomplish, and these accomplish that. The bass really hits really nicely. I mean, it's dynamic drivers, dynamic bass, and the mid-range, very nicely presented. Great imaging, you know, you can really pinpoint locations with these things, even though there's no BAs in here. So I think that's really fantastic. And these are probably one of my favorite sounding IEMs, just because the timbre also is just amazing. I love the timbre. Though it has that slight graininess in the highs, the mids and the bass, and everything sounds very coherent. All the drivers really mesh together the sound nicely. But I'm not keeping these because, big reason number 3, the shell is massive, absolutely huge, to the point where it doesn't really fit my ears. Now, if we get another IEM here, I have the Tri-Meteor and the Hexa, which I'm going to bring in right here. The shell is like 2 hexas and a lot bigger than the Meteor as well, which you can see that. You can see the front plate, how much smaller it is. Now, the real main discomfort comes from not actually the way it's inserted in the ear, but the side. It will push on, at least on my ears, on this side, and this notch pushes into the folds of my ear. So that's what I find to be the main issue with the fit. But the overall comfort is up to your ears. If you have larger ears, maybe this will fit for you. But on top of that, there's one more really requirement that I would say for using these IEMs. I did not like how these sounded on my BTR5s. I don't talk about sources in my reviews because I don't find the sources to make a massive difference with IEMs. But with these, I really found a big difference between the BTR5 and the DX300, which I use for my at-home listening. I use the BTR5 when I'm on the go, and I use the DX300 when I'm with the Mark 11 amp inside when I'm at home. And this sound difference between the BTR5 and the DX300 was massive. It was night and day, really. I would not actually really enjoy listening to sound music that much on this. It sounded kind of like a cheaper Tri-Fi IEM. Actually, even worse, because Tri-Fi is getting really competitive right now. I would even prefer the Hexa, really, than the 3DT on the BTR5. But when you plug it into a quality source like the DX300, like a really powerful source, not that these are very like demanding, which they're more demanding than the Hexa, but they're not like crazy. You get a much bigger sound, and you get a much more quality sound. Like, I compared having the Hexa and the Meteor on the DX300 and the BTR5, and I didn't really notice as much of a difference, really, as with these. These have a big difference in quality of the sound, depending on the source. So, should you buy these? It really depends. Are your ears on the larger side, or, like, bigger, like, than mine? Mine, it's, like, around, like, this big, maybe? So, if your ears are on the larger side, and you plan on using them with a very high quality source like the DX300, or like a player, or like a desktop amplifier and DAC, and you like the dynamic driver sound, I'd recommend these for you. But that is a much more like a specific requirement than how I was able to recommend the Hexa. The Hexa, I could recommend it to almost anybody because it fits well. You don't need a crazy good source, all that. Sorry, the focus is not really getting in there. But with these, yeah, the sound is better, but it's much more specific. You really need that bigger ear size, and you need that better source. I really tried my best to get these to stay in my ear for more than like 20 minutes at a time, 15 minutes at a time, but I just couldn't. I really wanted to keep these. I love how they look. I love how they sound. I really, really love the sound, actually. This is really like my preference, but I couldn't keep these. So if you know that your ears are on the larger side and you have the source, I highly recommend them. Otherwise, I don't think you should go for these for $400. If you can't wear them, then what's the point of owning them, you know? If you can't use them, why buy them? Thanks for watching. See you.